working now?
Check, check, check.
Did you hear that?
Is that good, Sarah? Check, check, check. Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Guess we'll try again.
Okay, so I don't I don't quite know what's this is all very new. So I think we have the live stream up and running, and I know that some of you are on Google Hangouts and some of you are on Discord. So thank you to those of you who kind of got things up and running on Discord and who are trying to help out with getting things working. And maybe I'll just wait till if someone can kind of confirm on the chat that they're able to. It says one watching on the live stream. I think so. Let me just see if that's actually changed. Yeah, okay, so it says 5 now. So I don't know what's going to work best. So this is all a little bit of a test today, and it seems like many of you have, are keen on doing something. So I thought I'd start by just looking at a couple of simple projects that everyone could work on, and and then trying to organize this idea of meeting up online in a way that works so that either I can share information with you or you can help each other out. So it might not work the best the way we're doing it today, where everyone's all on at the same time, and so we might have to just kind of change that to have some people on for ICS at whatever 10 11 o'clock or something, and then 11:30 it could be TEJ, something like that. So we'll just have to see what works. We can kind of figure it out over the next day or two. um, the live stream does say 6 of you are there, so I'll just kind of give it another minute or two. It's really funny um, how complicated it gets, because this is not. I have like many windows open on 2 displays now between all of the streaming things. Oh, okay, and I can see the chat on I can see the chat on the YouTube live chat. So so I don't know how we'll do questions. I think I'll just try to. I think I'll just start with Pong because that's the ICS class, and there might be a few more of you. I can see that there's some TJ students as well, but um, let's look at both things just really quickly. So let me get on the right screen here. So classroom, and I mentioned the idea of doing Pong, and that's posted in ICS. I am kind of listening on the Discord channel, so if you have a question, we could just try asking, and I should really post that. Anyways, classwork. Let's just look. Pong was this was the project I was talking about to see if we, want to work on it. So I think some of you have already gone through this before, so that's might be a problem, but you'll have to tell me. So the idea is to just create Pong, and there's kind of a list of steps on how to do it. And the main thing here to show you is just that, and you can see it on the channel already, is that there's some videos as well, and they're just in a playlist. So if you go to the this really is an old computer, and this may be the reason I need a new computer at some point, because it's a little too slow sometimes, and it's a little choppy. So I don't know if that's still working. I think it's also our internet, which has been really pushed to the limit in the last week. Okay, so I think we're back. Okay, so there's some videos and they're there under this link and you can see them on the YouTube channel. So really the best thing probably would be to just watch that video at your, your own convenience and try things out. And then if we want to meet up for, questions and streaming my screen and trying to deal with any questions that way, I think that would work really well. But who knows? So, so let's just do some quick. Sorry. That was the Pong idea, and if we just switch over to TEJ for a moment, then under TEJ, I posted this SparkFun Inventors Kit, and so there's a link on this right off the top. I'll go to that link in a moment, but there are a number of projects under here, 4 projects that you could build using Tinkercad and run, strictly on the simulator. So that was kind of the idea of what could work for the next week or so. Sorry, it is super slow. So those 4 projects are contained in the SparkFun Inventors Kit here. It's part of, SparkFun is like a online site that sells Arduinos and all sorts of components and stuff. So the first one to build was this light one, and we did this mostly in class already. They've got a little more going on here. But we did the blinking the LED, so that would probably be a great starting point for TJ, just to try practicing that and seeing if that works, and seeing if you can get the Tinkercad to do the blinking LED, and if that does work, we even did the potentiometer in class. You could work ahead to potentiometer, photoresistor, and this RGB nightlight. That would be a good number of things to work on over the next over this week. And certainly if you get further ahead and want to keep going, then by all means. I think the main thing that we really would need to talk about, and that I will do some videos on, is the coding part, because I know that for many of you in TEJ, the coding part is going to be a challenge. So I'm trying to watch lots of places right now, but I'm watching the YouTube chat, and can someone just let me know if I guess we have 10 people in here, 9 or 10 people. So I am trying to stream my screen on the YouTube channel. So if you're on Discord right now, you might want to check that out. And if you're on the Google Hangout, then the link is there as well for going to YouTube. Okay, so I would try YouTube. I can't even see my other Discord window right now, so I'm not sure what's going on over there. But oh, I see a little bit of chatting going on, and Emily is typing. So you have the link on Discord as well to go to YouTube? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's just look at Pong for a moment, and I mean, unless there's, I'm just looking at the YouTube live chat, and I'm trying to look at Discord as well. Are there any questions so far, or the live is 2 minutes behind from this voice? Yeah, so there's probably a really big buffer. I might just should I turn my, yes, Emily, you have a question? Is Pong an assignment? Yeah, that's a really good question. Did you do this already, I'm wondering, Emily? Yeah, and Dahlia's right. It has a due date. on Friday. You have to. I should turn that off, to be honest. The due date in classroom, but the question is Pong an assignment? And I it's it's gonna sound weird. I actually don't know what to say about that as an answer. The idea, I think the idea is just to give some structured thing that you can work on. And when we get back together in class, like I don't even know when that's going to be, but it. I guess the long story short is yeah, it's an assignment, especially if you haven't done it before or you didn't do grade 10, then that's a great assignment for you to do. And if I have to say at some point, hey, these students completed this work for ICS, they deserve the credit. If that's something I have to do, normally that's something all your teachers have to do. So I would mark it, and that would count towards your learning. Um, the only thing I would say in addition to that is for some of you who've already done some stuff beyond Pong, then you can feel free to extend that. Absolutely. So you can go beyond that if that's what you want to do. And you could let me know. You could just let me know what you're thinking of doing, but you could stay in processing and stay with some kind of game or something. So, and how do we learn to make Pong? Well, uh, you can certainly watch the videos. I know there's only one video there currently on YouTube. There's only one video there right now. Um, and it's a really basic intro of how to draw your screens on Pong. So that's not a lot of information, but I will be happy to put more. I will be putting more videos up. I'm trying to keep them shortish and kind of focused on one thing. And then you can watch them when you want and try to figure out how to work Pong. And I'll just keep and a few people out there, probably already know how to do it, and I can see them offering to help out. So that would be a great way to do it too, to just kind of meet up online and see if you can help one another out. But I can start with Pong on my screen. I can just start doing some code if you want. I can go ahead of what the video was, and some of that will kind of be transferable to other games. So why don't I do that if you want? Are there other questions? I know the YouTube stream is a little bit delayed because there's a buffer there, but I'm also watching Discord as well. I mean, for TJ, the other thing would be a similar answer to whether or not it's an assignment. Yeah, it's an assignment. I think they're simple little self-contained little builds on the Arduino, and it's really meant to try to find things that you can work on and continue your learning in a more independent way. Yeah, I'll make a schedule. I think there's going to be two versions of the schedule. There's like the next 2 weeks, and then there's what happens after. So, as many of you are well aware and following all this crazy news right now, the plan is that we go back to school after 2 weeks, so after next week. Um, but, that might not happen. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? So what I'll do is I'll make a little schedule for this week and next week. And I think most of Pong could be roughed out and somewhat working by the end of the week. But we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. And so also the same thing could be said for the Arduino things. You just try your best, and we'll see how long. Maybe things go the same speed as they normally do in school, or maybe things go faster or slower. I don't know. And we'll just kind of adjust. Okay. So, and I'm still watching for questions, but some of you, like I said, some of you are beyond Pong at this point. So by all means, feel free to try to do something a little more complicated. The one thing I would say is it would be really nice if we could share code more easily, and I am wondering if we can all start using GitHub. So, but you know what? That'll be something to work out in the coming days. So let's look at some code for Pong, and I'll keep trying to look up at my my screen on the chat as well. So okay, so I'll just start with basic processing as we always do. We need a size function that runs once on the first time, and we need a draw function that runs continually at the frame rate, and we'll do all our drawing, we'll do all our updating of information in here, and we're going to try just drawing our screen to get started drawing our screen today. And I don't usually use two screens. Do we follow the pic of the whiteboard? Yeah, I think so. There's another video for that, like requirements for Pong that they are on the whiteboard here. And I did a paper version as well that I'll show, that will be in the other video once I can upload it. That's a really terrible blurry picture. But yeah, part of what we're supposed to do is project planning with these software projects. And so the most basic version of planning, I think, is what's called requirements gathering. So what is this thing supposed to do? A list of the things it's supposed to do, and a diagram is really useful. The diagram can serve as a list as well. So in this thing, we just kind of drew the paddles, the ball, the screen, and the score. So that's what you should do on paper. And if you're doing a different game, this is so much more essential at that point, because I don't know what the game is that you're talking about, and excuse me, if I don't know what the game is, then it will be a lot easier if you kind of rough it out in this manner so that I know what it is you're trying to do. Okay, so consider that a part of on paper, just take some pictures and do it that way. Okay. So you'll remember maybe from processing that mouse pressed is a way to print stuff on the screen. And if and you know, it just kind of occurred to me too that if some students in TEJ want to follow along and do this as well, I'd also be fine with that. I mean, I think we need to be a little more flexible given the circumstances. So if you are able to get up and running on Pong and want to count that as well towards your work, then we will figure that out at some point. So I'd be happy to try to do that. Okay, so I have a screen. It's 800 by 600, and because of this size function that draws, you know, setup runs once, runs this size, opens a new window. You can't change that. Once your screen is set, it's set. And I'm printing in mouse press. This runs whenever the mouse is clicked. I'm going to print the location of mouse X and mouse Y. So right now I'm just going to click in a couple of places where I think the paddle should go. And this is all kind of in that other video I was doing. So you can feel free to draw that or to watch that and see that again. But I'm just going to throw this in here. And I'm going to make my paddle kind of thin. And I think I did that to make it kind of tall, and I'll run that. Okay, so that looks like a Pong screen a little bit. Maybe this should move over a little bit, or that one maybe should move over. I should have a ball. The ball in Pong was, you know, a rectangle. I'll just stick with a really old school look at this point. So I'll just put it in the center of the screen. It's 800 wide, so that'll be roughly in the center. And 600 tall, and I'll make it 20 by 20. Okay, so there's the ball right in the center of the screen, and I'll put some text on the screen. So you should, while you're, working on this stuff, keep your processing manual open. And I won't do that one. I'll just grab this and paste it into my code. Don't forget that processing has the Python version of the manual under that Python tab. So, and of course this should say Pong, and I'll put it in the center of my screen somewhere, roughly center up at the top. And you can change it. We won't worry about it right now, but you can change it. You can make it bigger. You can change the fonts. The fonts are the problem, but at least you'll be using your own computer and not the super slow computers at school. So here's two screens or scores on the screen. All right, are there any questions? Are people watching on the? Yeah, so I'll switch to TJ in a few minutes, and yeah, pass doesn't do anything. I just put it there as a placeholder. I need to get rid of that now. You know how Python gets angry if you create a function with nothing under it, and that was kind of needed to keep that function working. I'll just reach ahead a little bit for those of you who are, this is pretty easy and you can do this pretty fast. You need to do one of two things. So you need to decide which thing you're going to do next, really. You're either going to get these paddles working with a keyboard, or you're going to get the ball moving and bouncing. So just very quickly, just to give you a rough idea, moving those paddles, well, to begin with, we don't have any. Let's move this one, okay? So the one on the right, and the one on the right, I really should have, that's the ball. The one on the right, I really should have labeled these. So this is player, I'll call it just left and right, so that's right. And so I'll move the right one. So, we can't move it if we don't have some kind of variable to control the Y location. So I'll call it Y. I'll call it right Y. We'll have like a right score later. And the number was 223. So I'll just substitute that in. It's going to be a global variable. So it's a global variable because, right, it's a global variable because down here, I'm going to have a key pressed. So I need to add that key pressed. What's key pressed? It's a function that runs only when you press the key. So I'm going to drop in pass again. Okay, so just to make sure it's running, I put in the pass there to keep that from complaining that it's, it's an empty function and it's going to be an error now. It doesn't understand why I didn't put anything in the body of my function. And this variable now is controlling the right paddle. So if it were to go up 10 pixels, it was kind of roughly there. You can see it's moved up a little bit. Okay, so what the idea is here is that we're going to need to change this variable every time the key's pressed. So down here, and I'm going to do this in a way that's not going to work. Any key is going to do it. Okay, so if you press the key, it's going to add 10 pixels to the variable. And of course, this is going to be a problem. Let's just see what happens. So it's running, and I'll press a key, and I get this reference before assignment. Anyone remember what that problem is? Do you want me to mute? Should I mute on Discord? Sorry, I'm only looking at the comments every so often. Is it really mixed up because you've got... I'll keep going. You tell me what to do. If there's something I should be doing differently. Um, but I'll just talk about why this is an error. So it's an error because we can't change... Hey, we can't change this right y variable. First of all, it doesn't exist, right? This is like saying right y equals right y plus 10. Right? And so at that point, Python's like, well, where's the global variable? Or sorry, where's the local variable? You didn't create one. So, and this is the situation where we have to tell it to use the global variable, the global version up here. So I'm drawing this thing according to the right variable, and now when I hit the key on the keyboard, it draws a new one. Oh, there's that smearing effect. We've had that before too. So that is easily fixed by erasing the screen. So let's just, I think that background color is 200, and now it can go down. Obviously, it can't just go down. It has to go up as well. We have to decide which thing's going to happen when, and that's going to be decided by which key is being pressed. So right now I'm doing my right hand. So there's a variable called key. So it's, what do you guys use for this? I'll use I and K. So I will go up and K will go down. So what's happening here is the same thing. We're just modifying the right variable, but now we've placed it in an if statement. And we're using an if statement, and I'm just checking the key variable. If it's I, it's going to move it up. That's got to change there. It's got to go up. And if it's K, it's going to go down. So K is going down and I is going up. Okay. So that's moving the paddle, and the ball, interestingly, has to move a different way. I keep going. I can see there's some chatter on the channels here about the stream and stuff, but I think the YouTube is working. So I'll go to the draw loop. Now, there will be videos to kind of go back over this, but I'll just start moving the ball. And I'm going to do it before I draw everything. So I like to do updates at the top. And then drawing after. But this is going to move the ball way too fast. So first of all, again, same thing. We need to change the ball drawing positions here. So we better create some global variables. Again, these are global. There's bad things about that, but whatever. And then draw the ball at those variables. That should still be drawing it. We want to move it, so we'll do a global variable so we can change them, and then let's just make it move right, even a little bit. 1 pixel at a time is not a lot, but it's not going to bounce or do anything like that. If we wanted to make it move diagonal, well, that's moving to the right and moving, say, down at the same time. So we could do that. And if we want to make it move faster, we probably need to move like a few pixels at a time. Hopefully it's not too choppy when we do that. It's probably a little choppy because of all this streaming stuff happening on my somewhat old computer. And yeah, that gets the ball moving. So So I might just stop there for a moment. Are there any questions, especially on the YouTube, I guess on the YouTube chat, because that seems to be the one that's not, the audio isn't delayed on. Or sorry, on Discord, I guess it's not delayed on Discord. I think that should be a good start for you with Pong. Like, I think there's a lot to figure out. Obviously, bouncing off the walls is something you need to figure out. You know, I'll just do that as the last piece, and then I'll switch to the TEJ. I'll just remind you what bouncing really is. The ball moved. It's the same thing as collision. I mean, they're both very similar. So when it hits the paddle, it's going to have to bounce. When it hits the top of the screen, it's going to have to bounce. And when it hits the end of the screen, it's going to have to, you know, generate a score. They're all the same. We have to check a condition. We have to check that the ball has done something that makes one of those, you know, events occur. So since I've got the ball moving down, does it hit the bottom of the screen? It does. It's just going to hit the bottom of the screen there. So let's check for that. Let's check for bouncing at the bottom. This is also part of updates. So the bottom of the screen is 800 pixels. So if the ball's Y position is greater than 800, in fact, the ball is, the way I've drawn it, 20 pixels tall. So really it's when it hits 780 that it's actually touching the bottom of the screen. Okay, so if it's reached that point, then we want it to bounce up. Now, let's just print that we hit the screen, hit the bottom, just to know that it's working that far. So I'm watching down here now to see if when it hits there, there's a hit bottom message. There it is. It's all a little laggy, but they came up. Okay, so this is working. We know this if statement's working. What we really need to do is change the Y direction. This is a positive 2. This needs to become negative 2. So at this point, you really have to change that. That has to be a variable. If we have to change this value, it has to be a variable. I like to call that dy. So it was going down originally. It's also going to be a global variable, dy. And, you know, here it has to modify. So just simple thing to do is to multiply it by -1. So if it's going down 2 pixels per frame, -1 is now, it was 2, dy was equal to 2. Now we multiplied it by -1, it's now -2. It starts going up on the next frame. So there it should go up, which it didn't do. It's not 780, it's 580. The bottom of the screen is 600 pixels. So, okay, so it bounced. Okay, so I don't know if I'm okay, there's still 15 of you, so so somebody must be watching that, or at least have it playing in the background. Why don't I switch to TEJ just for a few minutes and just let me remind you about TEJ and Pong and getting started on processing. I put all of those things on YouTube. So if you take a look here, there is some YouTube to get you started. There's some videos. And yeah, so Python and Python mode. This link here, 20-minute crash course, is a quick review of working Python, and then I created a new Pong playlist. I'm not sure where it is. You know what? I'll get that organized. I put it in the Google Drive document. So the playlist link is here, and it's right there, and you can follow the Pong uh, videos there. Okay, and then the Arduino. I do have to clean this up and get rid of any extra stuff. Yeah, this TEJ playlist. No, that was the live one. Sorry. I will just double check on Classroom. I will get you the link in Classroom. And there was a video on getting up and running. It's on Classroom right now. If you check the stream, there's a video there of how to get that up and running. Let's just see what these projects look like. So first one is, I always like to see if they have a schematic. That always is like the best kind of starting point. So this is good. They're explaining stuff that we very quickly talked about already. So this will review everything that we talked about, which included, you know, what is the Arduino? How does an LED work? You know, it's a semiconductor. Current only flows in one direction. We have a resistor for a current limiting resistor. All of that stuff's in here. So they show you how to hook it up. So I think, yeah, so there's the schematic, which shows you the schematic version, but also at the same time it has the breadboard version, so you can build that in Tinkercad. And this is exactly the one we built in class. So we ended up building a LED off of pin 13. They did not wire up the power rails from the Arduino, but that's fine. They just wired pin 13 directly into the resistor that flows through the positive end of the LED back out into the ground of the Arduino. So so that project kind of is exactly what we did already, and you can try that in Tinkercad with some code. Let's just go to Tinkercad. The thing about Tinkercad was it had this exact same project in it as well. I think when we opened up the Arduino, it automatically had the code ready to go for flashing pin 13. So this is just loading. You will notice that the code for the Arduino is, you know, it's very similar to the code on processing. Those projects are there's a lot of things that are shared between those two projects. And so what's similar is the structure of the, oh great, I have to, is the what's similar is that you have a setup and a main loop. So that looks really familiar. 4.7. So I'm just looking at the Arduino kind of setup on Tinkercad. This is for the computer engineering students who are building some of this stuff virtually. And I think I said earlier, they're welcome to try some coding on processing if they want to. There's a lot of similarity there. Do not forget we're under the circuits tab. This, I believe, is where we left things off. So, Tinker, I guess, is the one to do. So this was my version of the same idea that I think you followed along and you got this up and running. And again, that's the video for this is on Classroom. And let's look at the code, because I think that's, I just quickly, I've set it up the same way. The only thing I did differently was I used the power rail. So the ground goes through the power rail. But this is hooked up to pin 13 as well. And, you know, feel free if you want to ask a question on the chats. I'm trying to look at them every so often. Hopefully you can read the code on your screen. I think so. Okay, so two functions. We're in the C programming language. Look a little different than your Python. This is not def. This says void. There's no colon here. And these are curly braces. Don't forget that. Yeah, I would encourage you when you write these to go void, setup, parenthesis, curly braces. Okay? And then start writing your code in here. Indent it as well. I'm not going to do that. You can never have two functions of the same name. If you find yourself making another loop down here to do something, stop. Okay, because whatever you're doing has to go inside of the existing loop. But like processing, we have a void setup that runs once when the Arduino powers up, and we have a loop that runs continuously. You know, you can think of it running like processing does 60 frames a second. It's probably running much faster than that because it's just the full microcontroller constantly trying to run that code. This is the TEJ assignment, and it's on Classroom. I just posted it. I posted these 4 little projects. Blink an LED. I think you've already done that one. Use a potentiometer. We'll jump into that one in a moment. We also did that one. I should say actually, you did this one if you were there in class on the last day. So many of you weren't. I know that, and so you might have missed this. So again, there's also some videos. I'll update this link with the video link. But if you check Classroom, I did post a link there about getting up and running on Tinkercad, especially if you missed the class on Friday. Okay. So this code is trying to blink an LED connected to pin 13, and I know it works because I think we left it in a working state on Friday a week ago. So you'll see very slowly, it's running super slowly, but that LED is flashing, and likewise the LED actually on the breadboard is flashing as well. So how does that work? Well, first of all, this line here enables the output pin. It enables the digital pin, sorry. These are all digital pins. You can see that on the Arduino. These are all pins that we can connect stuff to, and we can either run things with it, like power something with 5 volts, like an LED, or we can, have an input voltage. We'll do that next. So we've made it an output pin. That means we can turn it off and on with 5 volts and light up this LED. So that, and it's important that this says output all in caps. Okay, so doing this is not going to compile. It's going to be an error. It's not going to recognize what this thing is called. Output is a built-in constant. That's why it's all in capitals, as is high and low. These are all built-in keywords. Okay, so make sure that's right. And also, if you're coming from Python, don't forget, we've got this there. Don't forget your semicolons, because that's really easy to do. And don't forget to close your parenthesis, or your curly braces, excuse me. Okay, so the void loop, we're on void loop here. And all we're trying to do is turn the LED on, and we do that by turning pin 13 high. That means 5 volts is coming out of it. So this pin, we can connect a wire to it like we have, and we get 5 volts out. As long as this is set to high, it's set to high for a second, because this delay, it stops the microcontroller from running for a second, and then it turns it off and delays again. Okay. I see some chat on the let me just ask, because I think there's some questions about Pong. Did you make Pong last year in grade 10? If anyone can kind of tell me. Some people did. Okay, well, if you have some ideas of Yeah, for the summative. I know that's the problem with where we're at. So by all means, if you need to kind of review and you haven't done processing for a year, you need to review, then you can just redo it. But if that's going to be boring, then you can think of something else, and you could do a game if you wish, a different another game of some kind, or we could do something else. I mean, we also did some plotting of data uh, last semester at this point in the class. So we went into learning about dictionaries um, and lists. Obviously, we have to do lists and dictionaries still as part of the ICS 3 course. But so I'll follow up with that. Give me a chance to think about that and post something on Classroom. So we'll have two versions. So in if you're in grade 11 and you've done this stuff already, um, think of something else. If you have a good idea, you can just think of a different idea. It'd be nice if we kind of teamed up on one or two ideas, so helping each other would be easier. And I'll try putting an idea or two out there as well, and we'll just see. Maybe tomorrow we'll see if there's any ideas that kind of work best. And I'm just seeing another question. That's a great question, actually. Has anyone had any issues downloading processing? I'd like to know about that too. Or, oh, I can see you guys are helping each other out. So if there's still problems after that, let me know, and we'll see if we can solve them. So I'll go back to the computer, the TEJ project for a moment. Sorry. I hope, yeah, so if you were away on Friday, this is really your task to just try to get this up and running. Please watch that video. It's there in a step-by-step fashion, how to hook it up on the breadboard. And you can rewatch it if you need to. Let's just look at what happens on the next project. So potentiometer. So they're going to go through the theory. I think it's really, really good if you could read that and try to figure out what's going on. This voltage divider is a pretty key concept. So see what you can kind of make of it. It's really not, there's an equation in here. I'm not seeing the equation, but it might come later on. And so see if you can read that and make sense of what the voltage divider, what it is they're talking about. But we talked about the potentiometer, and here is kind of their version of the potentiometer. These are great for hooking up into the breadboard. So we'll get out the one on the Tinkercad in a moment. But basically they're saying you hook this pin to 5 volts and this pin to ground. And then this pin in the middle is the pin that's shown on the schematic. Okay, so this pin is hooked up to 5 volts because that's voltage in. That's another way of saying 5 volts. Goes through the resistor to ground. So this pin is hooked up to ground. And there is the connection of the middle pin. And it's this arrow that it physically can move up and down on the resistor. And by doing that, it will vary the amount of current that flows out of it. The closer it is to the voltage in pin, the less resistor that's between it and the voltage in. So if you push it right up to the top, it's basically connected to the voltage in directly. If you push it all the way to the bottom, then it's basically connected to the ground directly. If it's connected here, then it gets 5 volts. And if it's connected all the way at the bottom, it's getting 0 volts basically. So we should expect, if we hook up this circuit, we should expect this blue wire, I think, to be putting out a voltage between 5 volts and 0 volts, depending on where that is turned. And yeah, and so we'll look at their code and we'll see what's going on, but let me first hook this up on Tinkercad. And some people are asking me to be able to watch this after the live stream. I think everything I've done so far today is already up there. So there's a Pong video that just draws the screen. I'll get a keyboard and a moving the ball video together soon, hopefully for tomorrow, and so that will all be there. And everything that we're talking about on Tinkercad so far is on the other Tinkercad video, so it is there already. So let's just get rid of our code for a moment. Let's grab the potentiometer. We'll drop it in. Looks slightly different. Really isn't that different. There's the two terminals, and the middle is the wiper. The wiper is the important one. Well, I mean, it's the one we hook up to the microcontroller, the Arduino. But there's me hooking up the positive and the negative. And I'll just grab this wire here. And that has to go into analog 0, so I'll just do it over here. Okay, so I think a really important thing to do at this point is to find out if this thing is actually hooked up and working. I think the biggest problem with the Arduino is the problem of having both circuit problems and code problems happening simultaneously. This is a real issue because it causes you to really not know where to solve the problems. It's really hard to trace the problems because you don't know where to look. So, sorry, I'm scrolling around a little bit too much here. I'm just trying to remember where the link is for the don't know where the serial port stuff is. Okay, so I'll just go to the reference manual. It's not in an obvious place in the reference manual, unfortunately. So I'm going to go under serial. I will provide you a link for this as well. What I really want is serial print. And where is it? Down here. I'm not seeing it. Reference manual. You failed. We failed on here. I know it's not on here. Print. No. Okay, so just give me a moment here. I'm gonna bring up my regular Arduino. Too many things on here. In fact, if I were you and you were trying to work out stuff on Tinkercad, I strongly recommend you download the regular Arduino software for a couple of reasons. So let me just kind of fire this up. But the first reason is there's lots of example code in there. It's on the website too, but sometimes I can't find it. So the other reason is when you get into a big program and you've got a lot of stuff going on in here, you can make a mistake with these brackets really easily, and I'll show you why having this Arduino, this is free, okay, so having this regular Arduino thing here is important. So let me first go to examples, basics, serial. It's been a while too since I've done this, so I'm going to read analog voltage. I think that's it. Okay, so all of that was to get to this code. I'm going to paste this one in, and I'm going to put that in here. You don't have a place to print on the Arduino, and so you need to use this serial connection, which is basically a connection with a real physical Arduino. You got to go through the you plug it into your computer through a USB cable. So that's a universal serial bus, USB. That's a serial connection to your computer. You can send data through that connection and print it out on the screen. In this thing, in the simulator, same thing. We still have this thing. So we can actually use it to trace stuff, just basic print statements, but it's so important to have something. And right now we have nothing to trace anything. So what I want to do is I want to analog read pin 0, A0. I want to find out what is going on this pin and print it out to know what the output is. So I'll come back to fixing brackets in a moment on the other thing. But analog read in the reference manual. Reference manual is great. There's just a few things on there that I can't find sometimes. If you read this, it basically says, hey, read a pin and output the voltage. There's the code I wanted. It's exactly right here. Okay. They've used a variable for A3, whatever. You can hard code it if you need to, at least to get started. But what you'll notice is they didn't do they didn't set it to be an input or an output pin here. You don't need to. Analog pins are by default, they're set to be outputs. Okay, so, or excuse me, they're set to be inputs. So you don't need to set that up. You can just do an analog read, and then we can print it out onto the console using the serial print. Okay, so this, don't know if you can hear what's going on at my house right now. So this is going to be the sensor value, and then we're going to print sensor value. I think it's family chore time after lunch. This is a new schedule we're doing at our house. It's not going over very well. Okay, 1023 is the output. You can see this thing is turned all the way to this side, which is the pin connected to 5 volts. So this means that this thing is probably getting a full 5 volts. We could put a meter on this too. But I know if you read analog read, it will tell you that the values can range from 1023 down to 0. So this is the full value we can get. And if I turn it all the way, I'll turn it to the middle, and we'll see like a halfway value, whatever that's going to be, 500 and something. And then down here is going to be the 0 value. So this thing is working. So we're able to read successfully. And then we can do stuff like, well, I think in class what we did was we changed this delay to whatever's going on in sensor value. So instead of flashing for 1 second always, it's going to flash for 0 seconds right now. So it's basically on and off really fast. And this is kind of like a half-speed flash. You can't tell on the simulator because it's so slow right now, but it's only, well, maybe it's not bad, but it's flashing on and off for half a second now. And this should be the long flash of flashing for a full second. I'm not sure what the pot position is. Was that a variable name? This, I mean, this is that in the reference manual perhaps? This is the position of the potentiometer. So I imagine if they said something about pot position, then it's the position of where this dial is being, it's like a volume knob where you've dialed the volume knob to. And on the diagram, you can think of that of where you've placed this arrow relative to the rest of the resistor. Was it from the reference manual, that question, pot position? I'm kind of not saying names on this live stream because I'm not sure that that's a great idea, but not that there's anyone else on here, I don't think, but if it's from the manual, then I'm pretty sure that's all they're asking. And so there's two other things there, the photoresistor and the nightlight. I think, if you want to work ahead, by all means, you should do that. The photoresistor is just, it looks almost like an LED, and it just, well, not an LED, but there it is, you see it there. And it just kind of tells you, it's a resistor that's sensitive to light. So given, a dark environment, it will have a certain resistance, and given a very bright environment, it will have like a very different resistance. The RGB LED, I'll just explain for a moment. It can be a little bit confusing. The thing that's confusing, well, there's two things about it. The first thing is there's basically 3 LEDs in here at once. I don't think that's confusing because you can see these labeled red, green, and blue. And this has a common ground. So you can imagine if you hook this up to 5 volts for the green, you would, well, with the current limiting resistor, so it wouldn't really be 5 volts, but in comes like full voltage, turns on the green fully, and goes back through the ground to complete the circuit. So you get any color you want by combining the different amounts of red, green, and blue. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to just stop the simulation, and I'm going to grab a RGB LED here, and I'm going to drop it in. And so we have, it is common cathode. So I think we're okay. Let's just try the idea of lighting it up. So I always forget these things. I have to kind of double check usually, but let's do the green. I'm pretty sure that cathode is negative, but it's backwards. Sometimes it should blow up. Okay, so it blows up. Okay, good. I think, yeah, so I'm just trying to remember. The ones that we actually have in class, that we, physically use are common anode. And these are not, these are common cathode. So these are the simpler ones to use. You simply provide a voltage, full voltage with a current limiting resistor. You put 3 current limiting resistors here, and then you can control the different colors. So I think that, you should be able to work ahead, and like I said, I'll get a couple more videos together and try to go into a little more detail around the programming, especially, after this, when we try to do a little more with the Arduino, we need to be a little better with programming in C, so that can kind of, we need a little, we need some scaffolding there, as they say, to get us up and running. So I'll just stop for a moment and just see if there's any questions. I can see there's still, a number of you on here. I think where to go from here is, we can try to meet again tomorrow, and we'll just stick with this setup for now, and see if that works. And maybe I can just double check with anyone. If anyone has any other ideas, let me know. But I'll do I'll do the streaming through YouTube, and I'll keep the Discord open as well. I'll try to keep my eyes on the questions as we do these. But for, if you are in ICS, if you can make sure you've got processing working at home, and just try to draw your game screen and see if you can get your paddles moving with the keyboard, or see if you can get the ball moving. Let's just say the paddles would be the first thing to try, and we'll pick up from there tomorrow. See if we can get the paddles moving and the ball bouncing off all the different areas. So that will be Pong. If you're in ICS and you did Pong before, then you're going to think about a couple of other things to do. Either a simple game, maybe you can chat a little bit on Discord and see if that's going to work. And if not, we'll discuss tomorrow. And then if you're in TEJ, then try to get some of these little projects working on Classroom. Yeah, which time tomorrow? I think, I was aiming for 10:30 this morning. We had some problems. Can we aim for 10:30? Because it kind of, if it's not too early for you guys, it might be better, because then you got the rest of the day to do whatever, even though you're all social distancing. And but you might have things you want to plan, and so keeping it a little early, I think, is a good idea. My vote is for 10:30 tomorrow. Are we good with that? If you don't, I'm not sure. A cosmic assignment. What is that? Here, I'll show you a cosmic assignment for a moment. No, I'm just kidding. It's 10:30. ComSci. Yes. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure about doubling, but if you want to do some, if you want to do more, I'm not going to say no to that. So let's see if we can kind of. Oh, I've lost my mouse now. This really is time to shut this. Oh, I found it. It's two, two monitors are confusing me. 10:30. Are we okay with 10:30 tomorrow? Do you want to see some code I worked on while I got a little bit bored? My wife says this is. I'm I'm too geeky. So I've always wondered how the Mandelbrot set works, and I really wanted to figure that out. So listen, this could be an assignment for some of you in ComSci if you want to try this. But there's a bit of math involved. Not the math isn't difficult; it's just weird and crazy. I'm sure you've all seen the Mandelbrot set, um, but that was the first one I got working with color. And yeah, I just watched a bunch of videos. I'll put that on Classroom for you if you're interested. The videos are off of Numberphile and maybe a couple off of Computerphile. So been catching up on my Computerphile videos there, Daniel. So thanks for that suggestion. And there's a screenshot from the Numberphile video, but yeah, that's the Mandelbrot set. That was the very first version of it, and I just did it in processing. So, but some of it is it's just if you're familiar with it, it's just totally crazy. So, it's something that some of the mathy folks might be interested in. I'm not sure, but look at that. It's just so weird. There's some funny questions coming up about marks. So, um, and I do need to get some of those. I didn't look at the marking while over the week, so I know some of you, most of you, have something that you're waiting to get back still. So, I will get those into Classroom. So, 10:30 for tomorrow. Can we just stick with that? And if you're working away, then that's great. If you want to just check in with questions, that's great as well. And I'll try to post things on YouTube videos so you can watch them at your time, whatever works best for you. And as far as Discord, would it be the same link I go to tomorrow on Discord? I'm assuming it would be. Yeah, I've already done. Okay, it's not a link. It's not a link, Mr. Cordner. Jeez. Okay. All right. So we'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe and enjoying some extra family time. And we'll talk soon. Take care.